Sorcerer Supreme's abilities are now revealed. Yes, we've got the release notes for Jesus Christ. I am going to have a really tough month and also a tough MCOC career dealing with this. Now, there's nothing against blue people. Smurfs are alright. Yes, the Blue Man group is cool as well. And yes, Beast and well, Mystique are fine, but jeez Louise. We're going to have to put up with this. I'm still not sold on this, but let's have a look at the abilities of the Sorcerer Supreme. I mean, come on, Kebab. You could have gone for these two. The Battle Mage customizational set, or the, well, standard Sorcerer Supreme, which, you know, both look really cool. Why? Why? All of that aside, let's just focus on the abilities and get over the fact of the way the character looks. Now, in Kabam's own words, Sorcerer Supreme really is in comparison to Doctor Strange and Symbiote Supreme as well. The only difference is the switching of things. It kind of gives this vibe of Black Widow Clairvoyant because you're able to switch blessings. And blessings will be quite important in a moment to discuss, as well as storing things called runes of her current blessings whenever she activates a special attack, which add beneficial effects to the next few special attacks she uses, so increasing things like Fury or other stuff. Actually more similar to that of Silver Surfer that kind of meets the kind of mystical line. One thing Kabam are pointing out is that the champion will have this pre-fight ability, but also the blessings will have excellent interaction with stuff that goes on in the contest. For example, creating things like power gain, increased energy resistance, attack rating, perfect block, and also have power steal, regeneration, slow, and many others. So that is going to be very important, especially for a utility point of view, which, let's face it, a lot of mystical based characters do have this. One thing Kabam wants to point out is Nullification Aura. Sorcerer Supreme's special attack 1 brings a new spin on the Nullification ability. Once the attack is done, she triggers the Nullification Aura around herself that will slowly nullify buffs on the opponent. This can be incredibly potent ability in the right matchup, but does require her to get up close and personal with her opponent to get the most benefit out of it. So similar to, I don't know, a Mega Red, obviously the quicker and the closer you stand towards your opponent, the more damage you will theoretically do. Will that be the same sense of saying, look, if you take this champion against Venom in Act 4, I think it is, Act 4, and you can like right up close, does that mean that by being as close, you're able to then nullify all buffs that are currently on the opponent, especially from a slow perspective? Either way, that sounds pretty cool. Now, there's two things to mention. Number one, she's a bit fragile. Obviously, a lot of Mystic-based champions are. But as well, you know, when it comes to the blessing management, that is something that is a bit of frustration. If you look at champions like Nova, if you look at maybe Silver Surfer and trying to top left-hand corner watch, or maybe it's more kind of effort to watch, then it's not going to be too great to obviously trigger off some of those effects. Doing the heavy attack will be able to do that. Similar, you could say, to the likes of Venom the Duck, which has that ability to then do a heavy attack and then burst on the bank to kind of have some beneficial effects. But as well, if this is more similar to Black Widow Clairvoyant, where you get to manage your different types of switching of modes, and that could be something that would be, or curses, that could be something that is indeed better. So, you know, a lot of hope that this champion is kind of Black Widow Clairvoyant meets Silver Surfer and something else. You know, that could be really good, but obviously, there's going to be a lot of left-hand corner watching and making sure that you're doing stuff at the right time. One of the things at the heart of this champion is building power through more kind of unnatural means. Normally, obviously, you hit an opponent, you gain power. There's only a very few champions, which this champion will go onto that list, that if you hit a champion, you'll build a lot more power. But 70% less power built by attacking, blocking, and being struck, well, that's not too great. But over 9 seconds is nice to obviously keep your distance and obviously plan your attack. Now, let's move on to the blessings. Basically, it's pre-fight ability. So we've got Cyttorax Ferocity, Ragadon's Resolve, and Icon's Ingenuity. First one being Cyttorax Ferocity is all about granting a high amount of attack rating and increased critical damage. So that's pretty nice. The Ragadon's Resolve grants 1,400 armor and 30% perfect block. And then finally we've got Icon's Ingenuity, grants all It hits power still for 3% of the opponent's current power. Sorcerer Supreme gains 150% of power stolen. I like this. I feel this is good for different fights. You know, Ikon's Ingenuity could be about going against all or nothing. You've got Ragadon's Resolve with grants 1,400 armor and 30% block chance, and obviously that's going to be handy for certain fights where you need to have more of a defensive aspect, and maybe something about like increasing damage output could be for like high hit pool fights that you need that champion for. So there's lots there available to give you some amazing kit to go up against different fights. Going a bit further on and trying to explain things with blessings and how runes work is another aspect and depth to this character. It looks like runes are stored up, and as well based on the current blessing, the store runes have no effect, but when the runes are stored, Sorcerer Supreme then consumes up to one of each rune to trigger off a different effect. So that runes of Sitarak, runes of Ragadon, and as well Ikon, and each of them give different things. So armor break on the opponent for 12 seconds. You've then got passively regenerate Sorcerer Supreme for X amount of health based on obviously the rarity, and as well you've got slow the opponent for 12 seconds, preventing the unstoppable and evade effects. Obviously very handy against your Spider-Verse characters, and as well those that would do unstoppable like your Juggernauts, etc, etc. And as Kabam explained here, before the SP is used, she has no runes, so you can see 0 runes there, and then immediately after triggering the SP2 she has 3 runes of Sitarak, and then finally during that same SP2 of the runes is converted into an armor break, leaving 2 behind. Then again, going on to say the next time she does an SP2 she uses the runes of Sitarak to trigger second armor break, as well as gaining runes of Ragadon and triggering a regeneration, which is what you can see in this image here. The champion's signature ability is called Ring of Oblivion, and Sorcerer Supreme gains plus 50% ability accuracy. The potency of blessings is increased by 33%. So that is going to be incredibly important, especially when you're going to say about the attack rating or about the regeneration. That is something that you want to amplify and make more powerful. Even the developer saying all of Sorcerer Supreme's abilities already have the default 100% chance to trigger. So the ability accuracy she gains in her signature ability is more useful when encounters buffs or opponents that would reduce it. So, you know, you've got Archangel or anything really that does any kind of ability accuracy reduction. Now the special attacks do look relatively good, and obviously if you want to rotate and switch between those blessings, heavy attack is the way to go. The SP1 Aura of Science is your go-to thing in order to get yourself nullifying some buffs, especially on enemies that would cast a lot of them or get a lot of those buffs, whether it's Fury, whether or not it's power gain, whether or not it's energy resistance, physical resistance. It's having this option there that I think a lot of players will really look forward to, and as well suppressing things like regeneration that can be quite frustrating, especially with some end game content in mind. So it is always very good to put in there. The developer says, since runes are both stored and consumed when using special attacks, this attack effectively grants Sorcerer Supreme 1 rune of her current blessings. Obviously we've talked about blessings, so it's all about storing them, increasing the potency, that will be with the higher signature ability, and then doing special attacks in order to kind of get them out to then do more damage. Now with the SP2 you do store 3 runes, and as well you pause all rune effects until 5 seconds after the attack ends, which is good. And the Kabam even noting that regeneration still happens while the effect is paused, so the special attack can be used to get more healing out of the runes of Ragador. So that's pretty darn cool. So make sure you got that blessing up and ready to go. The SP3 I think is the thing that interests me the most, and especially because the extent of damage output could be a lot high, depending on how this is read. So basically it says the first time this is used in a fight, store permanent rune of the current blessing. The rune is never consumed. Subsequent use stores 2 non-permanent runes instead. Attack rating is increased to up to 7,311 based on stored runes. So store them runes. And Kabam's saying this attack is useful when you want to trigger a specific rune effect for every single special attack in the whole fight. The maximum attack rating increase is achieved by having 10 stored runes. So 10 stored runes will give the 7,311 attack rating. That's what I assume that to be. Sorcerer Supreme will enter in on April 9th, so look out for when this champion drops. I think this is going to be a really good champion, but obviously I want to test it out first to get that real kind of opinion. It is just very strange looking, but based on what you've read, obviously pause the screen, and Kabam will be putting out later today, or have already put out the release notes, so hopefully I can like get the links to you. But if you want to like pause the screen and just take the info and just kind of digest it, it is up to you. But look out for further announcements later on by Kabam on the subject. And also we'll be doing a Storm one as well. I just didn't want to create a large video about this, but yeah, I kind of Black Widow meets Black Widow Clairvoyant meets Silver Surfer. What are your thoughts? Put it in the comment section down below. A little bit Diablo as well, but let's go with the better champions in comparison. Also, don't forget to check out some other content up here as well. Check out the second channel as well as membership if you fancy doing that by going down here. Hope you're all well and staying safe, and obviously remain indoors. But see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.